Dragon Ball's Divine Attendants are assigned to serve and protect their respective gods, from the god of the universe and his destroyer counterpart, all the way down to the god of Earth. With powers ranging from healing to controlling time itself, attendants often, but not always, overpower their godly counterparts, however are much more docile and occupy a more supportive role. Dispatched from the world beyond, Mr. Popo is one of these attendants. Like most divines, Popo is forbidden from interacting in any significant way with mortals, but along with Whis, he acts as a mentor to Goku, teaching him the fundamentals of martial arts and of Ultra Instinct. But we'll get to that later. For now, let's look all the way back to the first time we meet Mr. Popo to see how strong he's become and where he stacks up to the rest of the cast.
You won't beat me. Look what you did. You frightened the birds away with your bad attitude.
When we first encounter Mr. Popo, he doesn't seem like much, but we quickly learn that he's one of the most powerful characters in the series up to that point. Though Popo says that he's weaker than Kami, he still completely outclasses Goku. He blocks all of his attacks, outspeeds him, and even directly calls him weak.
You're not very strong.
And keep in mind, this is Goku going all out since his friends' lives are on the line. One of Popo's first lessons with Goku is to help increase his speed, to be faster than lightning, which Popo is, easily. While Goku wears the crown from Mount Rumble to attract lightning, even initially he briefly dodges it, and later he's able to avoid it completely. But when he comes back to Kami's lookout to spar again with Mr. Popo, he is clearly still far slower. Popo even manages to outspeed and catch Goku while blindfolded using only energy detection, which we know is at least somewhat unreliable. For example, in the Tournament of Power, we see the heroes try to catch a little grasshopper from Universe 4, but they can't pinpoint exactly where he is with energy detection alone, which to me points to this feat being a little bit more impressive, really showing the skill gap between them. There's a lot of discussion about when Dragon Ball breaks light speed, which I won't get into in this video, but being pretty explicitly faster than lightning puts Popo at least 1/3 the speed of light. I won't add any calc for reaction time here though, as the energy detection could throw this off and make it not purely a react-based dodge, but Goku at the very least waits for the strike to start before attempting to dodge it. In terms of strength, which speed usually scales with in Dragon Ball, Popo is much stronger than Goku, who had just defeated King Piccolo. This puts Popo firmly in the camp of characters like Roshi and Piccolo Jr., who could easily destroy the moon with a well-charged energy attack. Fast forward to the time where Mr. Popo trained with the heroes during the beginning of the Saiyan saga, and he's grown in power level exponentially, at least 4 to 5 times, guides putting him at a little bit over 1,000. This would put Popo pretty close to the strength of Raditz if you believe he's at a power level of 1200, though this number is disputed as you can learn more about here. While the numbers given put Popo at the lower end of the humans in terms of power levels, as Dragon Ball fans we know that power level isn't everything, and Mr. Popo's ability goes far, far beyond the number that he's given at the start of Z. Enough that he could manhandle Raditz without breaking a sweat, and even hold his own against Nappa.
If you destroy the room again, you're banned for life.
As a Divine Attendant, Mr. Popo is host to a number of special powers and abilities. He's immortal and has lived for millions of years. He can teleport instantly to anywhere on Earth and even create life. As we can see during his first fight with Goku, Popo can also absorb energy blasts. He scarfs down Goku's Kamehameha with no problem, a lot like Android 19 from the start of the Cell Saga. Popo's spiritual control is much better than Goku's at this point, but their power levels aren't all that far off, and Goku may actually be stronger, at least physically, because of what we know about how much spiritual control contributes to the output of power in Dragon Ball. In fact, due to the knowledge we have that using energy beams increases your power level, often up to 2 or 3 times, we can say that Popo can probably absorb energy from blasts that are much stronger than himself. Meaning that in a fight with an opponent stronger than he is, he gains the advantage of limiting their potential moveset, drastically reducing their capability to fight him at range. In Dragon Ball, most characters' strongest attacks are ranged and ki-based, like the Masenko or the Gallic Gun, so cutting this out of an opponent's arsenal gives Popo a huge leg up. Not only this, but this energy has to go somewhere. It wouldn't be a surprise if Popo were able to add the energy from the blast to his own power, or at the very least, use it to regenerate some of his own lost ki. Though, as I mentioned earlier, the inability to use energy attacks will force his opponents into melee range, which will almost guarantee Popo a win because of his next and most important combat ability, Ultra Instinct. Now, it may seem absurd to think that Mr. Popo has the ability to use Ultra Instinct, so just bear with me. Popo is a Divine Attendant, and like Whis, the Angel Attendant of Universe 7's God of Destruction, Popo has perfect control over his spirit and energy. Over the course of Goku's training on Kami's Lookout, Popo teaches him the fundamentals of Ultra Instinct the exact same way that Whis does. Mr. Popo's first lesson with Goku is one revolving around a bell.
You moved like an acrobat to dodge my attack, and the bell never even made a peep. How'd you do that?
Where he teaches Goku about reducing his redundant movements.
If you just move it once, it doesn't work. You have to keep jingling it back and forth.
And those are the redundant moves.
Very similar to what Master Roshi tells him during the Tournament of Power, where he actually mentions Popo, and which leads to Goku unlocking Ultra Instinct moments later. This lesson from Mr. Popo leads to Goku attempting meditation, despite Popo trying to distract him. Mr. Popo explains to Goku that he needs to learn to completely clear his mind, just like with Ultra Instinct.
You two are both still thinking before you move rather than just moving. And I'm afraid this habit is especially strong with you, Vegeta. Relying on thoughts for physical action costs you precious fighting time.
Followed by Popo throwing a walnut at Goku, which he dodges without being able to see it. Goku can't sense energy yet, as it takes him a lot longer to learn the basics of energy detection, but he still manages to briefly clear his mind and have his body dodge the nut Popo throws at him, the exact same principle used for dodging with Ultra Instinct.
What is wrong with you dashing out in front of a speeding car? I've got to
Not long after this, sparring with Popo, Goku again manages to dodge an attack from him with his eyes closed on instinct alone. And later still, when he battles against the clone created by Popo, he manages to dodge an attack not because he's calm and focused and observing energy, but because he's tired and has cleared his mind. Further to this, not only did he manage to dodge, he also hit with a strong counterattack, the same parry-like move we often see with the mastered form of Ultra Instinct. Now, of course, Goku is far from mastering UI at this point, but it's clear as day that Popo is teaching Goku the fundamentals of a simple version of Ultra Instinct. A number of times we see Popo dodging Goku without being able to see him, including these same counterattacks. So not only does he teach it to Goku, we see him potentially using it as well. Now I will say, it's fair to chalk this up to Popo just being way faster and more experienced than Goku, and just using energy detection, but I think combined with how much he taught Goku about it, and how closely all of the teachings relate to UI, it's safe to say that Popo holds at least a rudimentary version of the technique, which is not surprising given it is a technique of the Divine, and Mr. Popo is a Divine Attendant, just like Whis, only on a different level, so Ultra Instinct could be innate for him.
Here it comes.
To clarify, rudimentary versions of UI are absolutely possible, and we see as much on many occasions throughout the series. Goku exhibits features of it throughout the entirety of the show because of his training from Mr. Popo, Korin, and Master Roshi, who we even see using a rudimentary version of it in the Tournament of Power against Jiren. Roshi manages to actually dodge a punch from Jiren, where the power gap is astronomical, showing us just how powerful Ultra Instinct can be, and how it can be utilized even in instances of massive power discrepancies. Let's take Mr. Popo versus Nappa as an example. Even with their stated power levels, due to Popo being able to absorb energy from opponents much stronger than himself, he could deny Nappa the use of his ranged attacks, forcing him in close where his version of UI could be most effective. And while UI isn't a perfect defense like we see in Goku vs Granola, at the very least Popo could use it to reduce the damage from Nappa's attacks by shifting them to less vulnerable areas before impact. The only question is if Popo could muster up enough power to actually damage Nappa in return at this point in the story. So it's likely they would just enter a stalemate and Nappa would get bored and just destroy the Earth or something. But I think this, along with the Cell Saga, was actually a catalyst for Mr. Popo, realizing that he isn't strong enough anymore to do his job defending the Earth and its guardian, so he starts training.
Incredible power. He's even stronger than Goku when he was a boy.
Probably the most famous example of Mr. Popo's strength comes from an anime-only moment during the Buu Saga, where Popo manages to keep up with and block multiple attacks from Goten and Trunks both in their Super Saiyan forms. as well as getting hit but taking almost no noticeable damage whatsoever. I've discussed this before in my video about the Saiyan duo, but according to guides, these kids individually match Gohan in power from the start of the arc, who in turn goes head to head with Dabura, who is stated by Goku to be about as strong as Perfect Cell, and Popo manages to keep up with both of them. While it doesn't scale exactly the same, let's say that fighting 2 Super Saiyans is equal to fighting one of them in Super Saiyan 2, due to the 2x multiplier. During the Cell Saga, Gohan and Goku in Super Saiyan both seem weaker than Perfect Cell, but upon going Super Saiyan 2, Gohan far surpasses him with the 2x multiplier on top of regular Super Saiyan. When Cell returns after his self-destruction in his super perfect form, he's still slightly weaker than Super Saiyan 2, but around the same level. If we use this logic of 2 Super Saiyans being about as difficult to fight as one Super Saiyan 2 fighter, this would mean that Mr. Popo could keep up with Super Perfect Cell without breaking a sweat, and even tank some of his physical attacks. Add on to this the fact that Cell wouldn't be able to use his Solar System Kamehameha because of Popo's absorption power, and Mr. Popo completely bodies him in this fight. Now, the only issue with this is that one punch from a Super Saiyan 2 fighter is much stronger than the 2 punches from Super Saiyan spread out over more surface area. So it's likely that Popo doesn't actually have that kind of strength, rather it's his version of Ultra Instinct that's allowing him to keep up. Still, tanking a strike from a Cell level fighter and not taking damage shows that at the very least, Popo's durability is strong enough to take hits, and in Dragon Ball, durability often goes hand in hand with power because of how offense and defense work with Ki. I believe that Popo is slightly stronger than Perfect Cell, which we can easily measure by him being able to tank the hit from Goten and Trunks, but slightly weaker than Super Perfect Cell. However, his absorption ability, forcing Cell in close, along with his version of Ultra Instinct, allow Popo to keep up with Super Perfect Cell at least enough to stalemate him, if not win. This is where I place Mr. Popo, at about the level of Super Perfect Cell or a Super Saiyan 2. Unfortunately, due to Popo's peaceful and protective nature, we don't see many offensive feats from him, but based on his special abilities and how durability generally works in Dragon Ball, we can place him at the very least pretty easily above Perfect Cell. The only thing we really see from Popo after this is that he dies along with almost everyone else when Frieza destroys the Earth in Resurrection F, so unfortunately, for all of us, Popo does not seem to be at the tip-top of the pecking order, and is susceptible to god-level powers. I know, it's a bit heartbreaking. Whatever the case may be, Mr. Popo is a very interesting character with some cool abilities, and though we've basically traded him out for Whis in Super, hopefully we get to learn more about the Attendants and their mysterious powers in upcoming arcs.
Hey! Hi!
Hi.